Ms. Broderick wants to buy a video game system and some games. An Xbox costs $300 and each game costs $40. A PlayStation 5 costs $500 and comes with a special deal where each game only costs $20. How many games would you need to buy to make them the same price? Okay, so the first thing that I notice about this problem is that what I have is not two things being combined, like here with my bikes and tricycles, but what I have is actually a starting point and a rate of change. So I'm going to use slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, because what happens is I'm going to buy an Xbox and then I'm going to buy games, and as I buy games, I'm going to spend more and more. So let's start with defining my variables, and this defining variables is a little bit trickier, and I would actually recommend, because we're so comfortable with y and x in the y equals mx plus b, I would actually recommend for these just sticking with y and x. It's a little silly to kind of change up, but I just find for me it's a little bit easier. So in this case, the starting point is me buying an Xbox, right? So we've talked about like my y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to come back to the variables in a second, where this is the change, right? That's the slope, and this is the starting point. So for the Xbox, my starting point is $300, right? And then my change, every time I buy a game, I'm going to spend $40 additional. Now, what is my X value? My X value is the number of games I buy, right? Because here, every time I'm going to spend $300, I'm going to add that to however many games I buy, no matter what, because I have to buy the Xbox. Then if I buy one game, that'll be 40 times 1, that'll be $40 additional. If I buy 2 games, that'll be 40 times 2, that'll be $80 additional, right? If I buy 3 games, and so on. So this is my Xbox equation, where I'm starting and then buying more games. And what is this? This is the total number, this is the total money I spent, right? Okay, now my PlayStation equation is that my PlayStation costs more to start with. It costs $500 to start with, but the deal is that it's only $20 per game. Okay, so there are my two equations. So now I have my two equations, I've defined my variables, and I'm ready to solve. I notice these are both in slope-intercept form. This equals y, and this also equals y, so I think, oh, well, if this equals y and this equals y, then they must equal each other. And I'm ready to solve. I have x's on both sides, so I'm going to go ahead and start by subtracting 20x from both sides, and then getting x by itself. When I divide by 20, I get x equals 10. Okay, now remember, x equals 10. X is the number of games, and I'm trying to figure out how many games I would need to buy to make them the same price, right? Like this and this, I want them to be the same. I want the money to be the same. So it seems like they're going to be the same price after I buy 10 games. And then let's see how much money that would be. Right, I'm plugging in. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to end up plugging into both. 40 times 10 is 400. So if I buy 10 games on the Xbox, I'm going to end up spending $700 total. What about if I buy 10 games on the PlayStation? I'm hoping it comes out to $700 as well, because that would mean my answer is correct. This is 200 plus 500, and that equals 700 too. So how many games would you need to buy to make them the same price? You would buy 10 games for a total of $700. Okay, that's my answer. Now, here's a little bonus. If I want to be able to play a lot of games, which one would you buy? Okay, let's think about this. The PlayStation costs more to start with, but then the games are less. The Xbox costs less to start with, but the games are more. So let's say I was planning to buy, now they're the same price at 10 games. So let's say I was planning to buy 20 games. Let's just use a big number, right? Like this says a lot. Let's say I'm just going to use the number 20. Let's think about it. The PlayStation, I put out more money to start with, but then when I buy 20 games, they're less each time. So here, like, and we can actually just plug in the number, like 20 times 20 is 400 plus 500. That would be the PlayStation would be a total of 900. And here, 40 times 20 would be 800 plus 300. The Xbox would be a total of 1,100 if I bought 20 games. So if I'm going to buy a lot of games, I would buy the PlayStation. Why? Because even though I'm spending more at the beginning, each game is less. Now, if I know, I'm not going to buy that many games, I'm probably just going to buy a couple, well, then I might prefer the Xbox because I'm going to spend less at the beginning, and then the fact that I have to spend $40 on a game is not a big deal if I'm only going to buy a couple.